Hi there, this is John Felix, or the Battlerite Profiler. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who watched my first interview with Jolts. I got a lot of positive feedback, so thanks for that. If I seem a bit slow in this one, it might be because I actually recorded it with a fever, but Jeter carried and we got a great interview that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Lastly, I'd like to say that if you have Twitter, you can find me there. I am at BR Profiler, so come say hi. With all that said, I give you Battlerite Profile number 2 with Jeter. Okay, so this is the second Battlerite Profile, and we have a North American player on this time, none other than Jeter. How do you do?
What's up? How's it going?
I'm glad to have you on the show. If someone finds this interview and for some reason doesn't know you, could you introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, so I'm Jeter, player of Youngsung. My name happens to just come from my last name. There's a very popular North American baseball player, Derek Jeter. Everyone thinks my name comes from there, but it just happens to be my last name.
All right.
So that's where my name comes from. But yeah, I played for Youngsung with Ninjas and Rare Peep, and I've been playing probably weekly Battlerite tournaments for since I started playing the game like a year and a half ago. So I've been playing like non-stop tournaments for a long time. And actually, Rare Peep used to be my first teammate. I don't know if a lot of people know that he's my teammate now, but he was my teammate a long time ago, and I left him. Rest in peace, Rare Peep. But I left him for Chalt and Stro. Chalt was my teammate for about a year, and we're still close friends. I'm pretty close friends with all my teammates, so that's a really nice thing I like with the scene that currently I'm still friends with all of them. But yeah, right now I'm playing with Youngsung, and it's going pretty well.
It sure is. But how did you get into playing Battlerite in the first place?
So Battlerite, I knew of Bloodline Champions. I played it a little bit with my friends. I played it while I think it was dead though. Played like just in houses with my friends. Something that comes back to memory is just the maps. I remember how big the maps were. Like some maps had like bridges and stuff. It was really cool. I remember like the capture the flag type game mode. I don't know if it was exactly called capture the flag, but it was just really cool. And so I didn't really play Bloodline Champions, but I knew of Battlerite because of DLC. So that was definitely a reason I played the game. I played a little bit during the grade system, but I really hated the grade system. And right as they changed the grade system, I came back, and I just haven't stopped since pre-season 1.
I'm glad they changed the grade system then.
How
soon did you realize that you were actually really good at the game?
So pre-season 1, I definitely didn't expect to get Grand Champion. It was definitely an easier season to get Grand Champion, but I was like Platinum, and I kept going up in rank, and someone wanted to. I played like 2 tournaments with just my real life friend, and we did pretty well. We actually played against Eric Kune, who is a very popular NA player, and Ninjas, my current teammate, in a 2's tournament. And they kind of troll picked us. They were playing Jumong Oldur, which was the other top team's comp, and we were able to beat them on that comp with Croak Esmo was our comp. And so that's really kind of sparked my interest in the tournament scene. And then some people asked me to play. They wanted the Croak player, because I was just the Croak player. That was just me. And so people just wanted to play with the Croak. So, that's where I started to, I guess, come in. That's where I got with Charlton and Stro, is just they wanted the Croak player. That's it. That was me. They didn't care about me. They just wanted a Croak player. So that's kind of how I got in the scene.
Were good Croak players hard to come by?
There's definitely tournament Croak players and solo queue Croak players, and I think that was a little bit of a different thing, that because the game isn't 2s isn't like the competitive game mode. and there's definitely a different play style between 2s and 3s. And I guess most Croak players just didn't, at least for North America, the North American scene didn't have any Croak players who played in tournaments. So that was like most of our Croak tournament like mirror experience was playing against Hot Biscuit's team. Woozak, Hot Biscuit, and Blanks. They played in many NA tournaments.
Yeah.
It was very fun. I think we just mirror matched them constantly. Just Croak Ash Golder versus Croak Ash Golder. It was pretty fun. Yeah.
Okay, so have you always been competitive as a person?
Yeah, I was. Before this, I played League. I went to a few offline tournaments in Orlando, which is just like local for me. So I've been to a few League tournaments. Before that, I was a console pleb, so I played a lot of Call of Duty. Went to also Call of Duty tournaments. So I've been just like casually playing tournaments for a long time in various games, and so I kind of just went from Call of Duty to League for just non-stop League of Legends. It was like just High Diamond 1. I didn't get to like Master or Challenger or anything, but High Diamond 1, played tournaments there, and then after that I played Battlerite and kind of just quit League from there and just never went back to League. So I've just always been playing I've been playing like this game weekly tournaments for like a year and a half, just like no breaks.
So what specifically about Battlerite? You said after they took away the grade system, you came back and never stopped playing the game. But what specifically about Battlerite made you fall for the game?
I mean, people like to compare it to like fighting games, which I don't really, want to like side-by-side comparison to a fighting game, but definitely like aspects of fighting games where you can really just like be in the head of your opponent is always just really appealing. And Battlerite it definitely feels like individual skill. Like if I were to play Overwatch, because I played some Overwatch just casually, you just don't feel that individual skill if you're like a tank role. But in this game, like supports, tanks, range, like you could be whatever you like. Any type of role you play is just, you can feel like you really individually accomplished something in the game. So like I've played, like I was a melee main, now I'm kind of like a support ranged flex. Like I don't even touch melee anymore for my team. And so just it doesn't even matter. Like it just, you feel like you can really help out your team as much as any other role, which is really cool in this game. And it's not kind of like that in other games. No one really wants to touch support in League or Overwatch. Like this game is like, if you're a support player, it's almost like one of the most mechanical roles in the game. So it's very cool.
Yeah. But you started out as melee though, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The Croak player, and then because I first saw you on Unsung, and you were the melee player there. Were you always a melee player? You mentioned a few teams before that as well.
Yeah, so definitely I was a Croak until Croak stopped working, right? Because the team that we had to beat was Shifu Teia, basically. And Shifu Teia is like top 3 of Croak's hardest matchups to play. So it's like really hard to, be a Croak player and try to be in the tournament scene at the time. So I had to kind of flex towards other roles. And it's fun, like learning other games. Like that's the fun part about like competitive games, is just like learning how to play different ways and different play styles. So I picked up Bako, I picked up Rukon, Raigon when he came out. I probably played a ton. He's probably one of my best characters right now. And so I kind of just I just decided to, I'll just play melee. That'll just be my role. I'll stop playing Croak and I'll just, go to melee. I couldn't really play Croak in like the NA competitive scene, so that's what kind of pushed me into the melee class. And when it comes to like other games, I've definitely stuck to like the melee archetype, I guess. Like League, I was jungle top lane, so I've definitely been on the archetype of melee. So I feel like from other games, I definitely take the experience of melee better than I have with like range DPS, probably one of my worst roles. But I've tried to the fun part of the game is learning other type of ways to play the game. So I've definitely tried to flex to other positions a lot in this game.
Right. So, Unsung, you were there for quite a while, right? And
Yeah. Last year I think was around the time, like April. I think I joined Chaltonstra last year.
and you guys were kind of like consistently the second best team in NA, right?
Yeah.
I'd say. Um, so things were going well for you already there. What made you disband Unsung and form Youngsung?
Well, so there's a couple of different iterations of Unsung. It's kind of been the core of me and Chalt.
Yeah.
Because it was Chalt, Stro, and I, and Stro kind of had like not a falling out with us like as individuals. Like we're still friends with like again all most of my teammates, and so he wasn't feeling the tournament. He didn't really want to play weekly tournaments anymore, and so we had to find a support. And he plays now, but it's just how the convenience, like people take breaks and find different teammates.
Yeah.
So then I think we played with Hoodat for a little bit, then we played with Outcast, and then we played with Niwa, and we stuck with Niwa for a while.
Yeah.
And after a while, they both got kind of irritated with how the scene was going. It was kind of getting stale. Again, like we had like Enter the Arena tournament, I think last year, February. And that's when people were having fun. And it wasn't until BPL where the tournament scene has really been popping again. And so they kind of took a break. And then I found I was able to get with Rare Peep and Ninjas after, a little bit of maneuvering with their teammates. And it just so happened Chalt and Niwa were taking a break during the time that BPL was about to be announced. So that's why I'm not with Chalt and Niwa right now. Just kind of like unfortunate circumstances with in non-interest in playing the game anymore or playing the tournament scene. But I mean, Rare Peep and Ninjas are perfectly capable and fun teammates to play with, and I enjoy playing with them a lot. So that's why I'm not Unsung anymore, and now I'm Youngsung because they're much younger than my other two teammates that I previously had.
Yeah. But what would you say the difference between Unsung and Youngsung is? Because you went from like, at least in the time with Niwa and like the last iteration of Battlerite, it was like kind of always overconfident on top, current SSG on top, and then you right after. And now it's kind of shifted. Youngsung, you've gone through the entire group stage of BPL without dropping a single game. So what would you say is the big difference between Unsung and Youngsung?
Well, I would say flex picking is like a huge difference with like the teams I've played in the past and Youngsung, because you have like Ninjas where you can say he's like a serious player, but in reality you don't know what the guy plays because he doesn't even play serious like when he actually plays the game. So you can kind of just throw him on whatever, and he doesn't talk a lot, so he focuses a lot on the play, which is fine because if you have like a dedicated shot caller, you can kind of like move him around how you want. With like, you just throw him on a character that hits skill shots. Like you could throw him on Vresh, and then as long as he doesn't go off and kill himself in their backline, he just needs to hit skill shots and play mechanically well. So definitely having like Ninjas as able to flex is really good. And Rare Peep used to be a ranged DPS main, and he took over the melee spot for me. So we're able to like flex very heavily. Like Rare Peep can still play he can still play Taya if he wants. That's like his most played character in the game. And so we're able to kind of like maneuver around the roles, and it really messes with how the drafting works. And I think that's the biggest change actually, is the drafting going from like 1-1-1-2-1, how the draft worked, to now like blind. You both pick at the same time, reveal, both pick, reveal, both pick, reveal. I think that really helps our team kind of bait people into thinking we're playing comps that we're not playing, because they can't really guess like our comp with, you know, how many different characters we've really flexed to.
Yeah, that was actually the next question I had, was about your roles on the team, because you're used to seeing people with one support player, one melee player, and one ranged player, and some teams have flexed a little, but you guys seem to be quite all over the place. Like, you started out with a double support comp with Oldur and Ulrich, and then Rare Peep was on the melee, right?
Yeah.
He played Baco, I remember, for a few games. But we've seen him on ranged DPS now in the BPL as well, right?
So Rare Peep, I don't think he's played ranged DPS in the BPL. We've definitely scrimmed with him on ranged DPS. I don't know.
Was it Ninjas that played
Ninjas
Alicia?
has played ranged. Yeah, he's played Alicia and Taya in BPL. So he's definitely flexed to like just the ranged class. We could also, you know, he's known for his Sirius. You could have him on Sirius. I play like a lot of, like, I've played a ton of Esmo. And so I think of it kind of like if Jolt's team, right, Gatekeepers, Hot Biscuit plays Esmo, but Jolt's is almost known for his Esmo a while ago, right? He was like the Esmo player. And so you could draft Esmo, and then you could still play like a good comp like Ashka Esmo, and then that would bait them to thinking you're playing like an Esmo Baco or whatever, and you could have that type of that variety in comp. So I think that's kind of what we have is where we I could still play melee, you know, ninjas can still play melee. Like we could just maneuver around because we still specialize in certain characters outside of our role. And I think that's really cool with how our comp is working and how our team dynamic is.
Yeah. So both you and Ninjas are still going to switch back and forth between your roles?
Yeah, we've definitely, you know, it depends what comp we're thinking. I definitely prefer the support role currently because it's much easier for me to kind of talk during the match than it is. Like if I were to, when I was a Croak player, I could not like shot call or call out anything because I can't see my teammate half the game. I'm like in the back line, you know, being annoying. It's like I can't shot call for my team. I don't know what cooldowns, but like when I'm in the back line playing like Oldur or Paloma or something, I can see every cooldown and I can tell them to come back. I can tell them, you know, Ninjas has no cooldowns. We need to, you know, help out Ninjas. We need to help out Peep, and we can kind of work like that. And I think that, you know, really helps. You know, having a dedicated, you know, talker, a shot caller helps a lot. So I think that's a big thing. But definitely Ninjas can still play support. We've definitely tried Rare Peep on his most comfortable support, because I think that's another thing. If Rare Peep can flex to support, then it's just like all over for the draft. No one knows what we're gonna play if Rare Peep is playing support. So that's very cool. Okay,
so but Rare Peep mainly plays melee now, though, for you guys.
Yes, he's definitely our dedicated melee. I like his tanks a lot. I really like his play style on his tanks. His more bruiserish melees, you know, I've had a harder time. You know, I very much prefer the EU slow play style. I'm sure most people know that when I've, you know, played in games. I prefer to play slower pace. I prefer to make it a more controlled game, because I've been, you know, I've had to play against Shifu Taya Sirius for such a long time from the NA, and I like to slow it down. And, you know, when we put him on the bruiser melee, it becomes too chaotic for me. So I like Peep's playstyle on the tanks a lot. He definitely has locked in, you know, he's definitely solidified himself as a really good melee just in general, which is really cool for him to swap to, you know, a ranged player to a melee player.
That's interesting that you mentioned the EU thing there, because I've seen you on your stream. You played some EU solo queue.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you about whether you see a difference in how EU and NA plays, and it kind of seems like you think there is?
I think, you know, it definitely depends on like, I feel like what character you've been brought up in the game on. Like if you played, like if you were a Shifu main, you definitely think about the game a little bit more like all in based, you know, not as reset oriented, but you just try to kill the support. And so it probably depends, like, or matters that the top streamer has been averse and has
Mm-hmm.
played on this aggressive comp. And so people in NA kind of um, gravitate towards that type of play style. I mean, that could be one theory. I don't know, but I definitely feel like the ranged players and the melee players in EU definitely want to play a little bit further back than I would say the North American play style is. Not to say, you know, some people in EU don't play like really aggressive in certain comps. I think the Ulrich meta really brought out a really aggressive style for Europe, which was very interesting to see. Because they usually didn't play like the serious or the like just the serious like the melee healer, which is known to be like an aggressive style of play. So it's very interesting to see Europe play Ulrich, because then it was just really aggro play style all the time. So it was very cool.
Yeah. But it's interesting because when I talked to Jolts in my last interview, when I asked him about the difference between EU and NA, he also brought up this aggressive versus defensive, like how back in the day EU played like Paloma Varesh and something, which is very, very defensive, and how NA has always been more aggressive, like, and talked about overconfident type of playstyle with the Shifu, the Teiya. Would you say that you personally think that the more defensive, slower playstyle is like the better way to play the game?
No, because it depends a lot on the map. It depends a lot on the comp. Like against like a Varesh Paloma comp, you tend to like if you're trying to camp the Varesh Paloma comp, you tend to just lose from just value. Like the Paloma just out heals so much, so you need to be a little bit more aggressive or burst depending on the comp, the map. Like if it's like a really small map, pushing them out of the map really like from the start helps a ton in just grabbing orbs and whatnot. Dragon Day, if you push them out of the choke, it's very hard to get back into the choke. So definitely the aggressive playstyle helps a lot. And I think some of it is mixing up the tempo, sometimes going a little bit slower pace, sometimes playing a little bit more aggro. I think because when people start reading your habits, like a Shifu known to like immaterial first, then they're not even afraid of your counter until your immaterial is down. So you kind of want to mix up your play style a lot. So I wouldn't say one's better than the other. But I prefer one over the other. I prefer the longer micro trades than losing in one punish. I definitely prefer one playstyle towards the other. Not to say one's better.
All right. I wanted to talk to you about Oldur as well, because
Okay.
I think he's a quite interesting champion right now. You have only played Oldur in the BPL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's kind of known for not having that burst healing, not a lot of heals, but being very aggressive. So a lot of people kind of thought it made sense for you to run him in a double support comp.
Mm-hmm.
But then you started playing with only Oldur as your support, and now I've seen other players talk about how he's OP, how he needs to be nerfed for playoffs and stuff like that. How strong would you say that Oldur is right now in the competitive meta?
So I've made the comment before when someone like said like the top 3 supports, like during the Ulrich and Xander phase,
Mm-hmm.
I always thought Oldur was up there, and if Ulrich and Xander got nerfed, Oldur would, you know, be a lot better of a pick than you wouldn't have to pick Ulrich or Xander. You could pick Oldur. I think he really, you know, takes pressure well.
Mm-hmm.
And again, talking about the differences between like EU, why like you don't see as much European Olders, I would say, is might be because the Paloma Vresh type of style where they just, you know, Older doesn't have that type of sustained healing, right? So you might just get outvalued from like the European defensive style. And so I think Older eats pressure very well, and I think that type of style, when the North American play style more leans to them trying to aggress you, and Older just basically says come in and die, like you come in and you're just gonna eat damage, and like from the backline, it's very difficult to like for a melee to jump in on an Older Alicia backline and, you know, come out as the winning trade, because that's a very heavy DPS backline. So when you play a very defensive style with like an Older, it's very difficult to come in. You have to start switching to a campy play style against the Older, which I think that's why it does so well in NA currently, is because everyone's just trying to push you and like just to win like the one trade, but you can't win the one trade with like the Older ult to get you out of the big combo. So I think that's why Older is very strong for us right now. And I've played a ton of Older in solo queue and the North American like in-house league, and I feel very comfortable talking to my team while playing the character. So I think that's one of the reasons I prefer playing Older.
Because I take it from what you've said now that you are kind of the designated shot caller on the team.
I definitely talk to most while we're playing. I definitely try to get us to move around the map a certain way. Like Rare Peep has made, you know, makes calls during the match. He makes good calls, but I feel like as a support, you just see more of what's going on. So like from the backline, I can definitely shot call better than a melee can. So I think definitely I wouldn't say we have like a designated shot caller, but I try to move us around the map a certain way. So, and I think that helps a lot if I can play Older, a character I'm very comfortable on.
All right. What other supports pick do you think we could see if you ever step away from the Older? What else would you bring out?
Well, I mean, we have ninjas who can, you know, clearly play serious, so we could play, you know, serious comps. He plays Ulrich, we could play Ulrich comps. Paloma used to be like one of my, I mean, it was my first level 20 support, so I've definitely played Paloma, scrimmed with Paloma. It's been pretty good with, successful with Paloma and scrims. But it's all about the draft, right? You have to, how the draft works is, you know, it's easy to say like this comp is good, but it's hard to like pick a certain comp and then you see a pick you don't like, and then it's like, oh, well, our other comp worked well with that, but like you've already kind of locked in Paloma. Like I can't lock in Paloma and then see a character I want to play against as Older and then pick Older, because now that just doesn't work. So you kind of have to like your characters rely on the draft, and Paloma for me doesn't really bait, you know, a double support pick or, you know, whatever other comp we want to bring out. So not to say we couldn't bring out a Paloma when the Older doesn't work, or like ninjas on support, or even Rare Peeps flex support. But right now, like a Paloma pick doesn't really bait out anything.
All right, so it's all in the mind games.
Yeah, it's all about the draft right now.
How do you think that will change now that we're moving from a best of one phase into the playoff phase, where we'll see more best of fives? Do you think
so definitely a lot? Yeah, definitely a lot more comps variations, because during a best of five, comps definitely start to like after one loss, the losing team's just gonna instantly swap comps, and then them switching comps swaps how the draft works. So then the winning team can still, you know, swap because of, you know, a different how the draft worked. So best of five, like I've definitely practiced scrims knowing that this is our best of one comp, and then we have best of five comps, right? Because definitely, you know, they can counterpick, and then, you know, we're gonna have to react and draft appropriately to losing, and so not naive to think, one comp's just going to win it all in a like 5 matches straight. That's just not how it's going to work.
All right, I'm interested to see what you're going to pull out in the best of 5s. Then I guess you don't want to say what comps you have ready for playoffs.
I mean, we don't need like it again. It just depends on how the draft works. It's just it's kind of like a flow chart. We pick this. If you see this, then we pick this. If we see that, we pick that. So it's definitely not like a locked in comp. I think. I mean, that's the fun part for me. I like to do the drafting. I like to think about what comps like are good for maps too. Like we could play this comp, but it's not good on this map, and this comp is really good on this map. So you might see like comps that are just strictly because of the map.
All right, interesting times to come. I'd like to look a bit forward to what's about to happen in the BPL, because we're all done with group stage now. And Group A, your group, Youngsung beat everybody. Are you at all surprised over how went it well for you guys?
So I didn't expect a 6-0. So I mean, we had Space Station Gaming in our group, which was definitely the hardest.
Yeah,
we definitely had the hardest group. But before we even started the group stages, I was anxious, but I was definitely confident going in, because we haven't played them since Ulrich came out. Like that time we played them was the first time we played them since Ulrich came out, and Ulrich's been out for a while, so that means we haven't played them for like 2 months. And so, Ninjas again being, a pretty easy transition from Sirius to Ulrich, because they're both like the melee supports. I was relatively confident, but obviously not. I didn't think we were gonna, go 6-0 in the group. So.
All right, but you did. So that puts you at number 1, Space Station Gaming, number 2, Excel Wizards, and then Entropy. And then for Group B, Fable Esports got the first seed over Atrocity Exhibition, then Empath, then Noble. Is there any team or player in the BPL that really surprised you?
So Atrocity Exhibition, I definitely, that has Fireblaze, Flappy Penguin, and Freak. And that's definitely a team where after playing like many in-houses, scrims, I was surprised how like that team dynamic, worked, and that was actually pretty successful, because they did get 2nd seed.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a team I was surprised. I think Flappy Penguin, actually, after playing with him in houses, I think he's a very smart individual, and I'll be interested to see how, because I think they only played 1 comp in all of group stages, and so I'll be interested to see the different comps they play in best of 5s, because they're not one tricks. They can definitely play other comps. So that'll be interesting to see what comps they play.
So the first game, or I don't know if it'll be the first game that they play, but one game that will be played now before the semifinals arrive are SSG versus Atrocity Exhibitions. Do you think there's any chance for Atrocity there?
I mean, there's always a chance. There's not been any like from past matches. It's just unlikely that it would happen.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to I guess weather the storm of SSG's playstyle. They'll take any inch you give them in positioning. They'll rush you down if you give them the chance. So it's definitely a weird play style to try to play against. So there's always a chance, and I'm interested to see what different comps they are thinking to play against them. But the past has not shown that they're favored to win this. So we'll see though. I'm curious to see what comps they've theory crafted to play.
Yeah. And then after that, we'll have Excel Wizards versus Empath. to
Both my
decide.
old teammates. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of an unsung reunion there. Who do you
Yeah.
think will
Team
take it
Untitled.
between those teams?
Oh God. I mean, I feel like I can't say this. I wouldn't be able to say this is, basically for me, Niwa versus Chalt. They've definitely both shown that. I feel like they're on equal. That'll be a good match. It'll be a good match. I don't think one team will completely take it over the other. I don't know. That's a toss up, and it's hard for me to answer because I talk to them every day, and uh, I mean I don't know. My boy DeWizzle's on Niwa's team too. I don't know. I, I guess just give you the answer. I'll put Excel Wizards just because I think Chalt, needs the fire. He needs the fire to, pun intended. He needs the fire to win it. So we'll see how that one goes.
All right. So basically, the team with more friends wins. Or
Yeah, it's friendship always wins.
Yeah.
Yep. Not that I don't like Chalt's teammates. They're very nice people. I just, I'm not as friendly with them.
All right. So the way I see things going, I'm thinking it'll either be Atrocity, Exhibition, or Exile, or Empath as your semifinal opponent, right?
Yeah, so those are basically our only three options. We play Atrocity, Excel Wizards, or Empath in semis. Yeah.
Yeah. So hard to say right now who it'll be, but out of those three, who do you think will be your toughest
Our
opponent?
toughest?
Which would be toughest to face of those three?
I would have to say Atrocity, just because I feel like Flappy Penguin and Fireblaze's playstyle kind of almost complement each other, because Fireblaze likes to eat the pressure and Flappy Penguin doesn't really give anyone like an opportunity to focus him, and so their only target then is usually Fireblaze, and I'm sure they know this and they're able to play around it. So I think their play styles kind of go pretty well together. So I think Atrocity, Exhibition, and again, I don't know what comps they like. I know what comps my old teammates could play.
Yeah.
But I don't have as much information as what they might play against us. And you never know what Fireblaze is definitely one of the he's definitely known for his unconventional play styles, comps, characters, builds. He's just a very unconventional player. So that man's a wild card. So I don't know.
All right. You said at the beginning of this interview that before BPL, people kind of thought that the competitive scene was quite stale. And now we have a lot of good teams in the BPL in both regions, but I'm also kind of thinking that a lot of people would say that in NA, the two teams going to LAN are going to be SSG and Youngsung for sure. That you two are kind of separated from the rest of the pack. Would you agree with that statement?
I wouldn't count Fabled out. I definitely, Stro, Hythar, and Keith are. I'm sure like SSG is not just like sleeping on them as well. I'm sure they're going to try to be very well prepared for SSG. And again, like I think it might be a little bit easier to predict SSG's comp than it is to predict some of these other teams' comps, such as Fabled. And you never know what in a best of 5 you can't, like best of 1 kind of what map it's gonna be on, but you can only ban one team is only going to be able to ban like 2 maps, right? So if you ban Sky Day and Ormond Day, that means you still have to play on Ormond Night, and that's going to be perfect for Hythar, who plays Rook, right? So you're definitely going to have to play on some weird maps, some weird comps. And so I definitely wouldn't count Fabled out. People definitely put us and Fabled very close. They thought you know, is either going to be us or Fable as the second team. But I mean, now SSG is going to have to fight. You know, they have to go through semi. So I mean, I think Fable can definitely. I definitely wouldn't count them out.
All right, I'm glad to hear. It makes things even more exciting.
I doubt it would be like a 3-0 sweep too. It'll definitely be a close set. I guarantee it.
All right, sounds good. Okay, I like to finish up with like I have 4 statements, and I want you to say like true or false. So I have 4 statements, and you can say whether they are true or whether they are false. So first one, Youngsung is the best team in NA.
Just true or false? True.
Yeah. All right. Niwa taught you how to play support.
True.
All right. EU greater than NA.
False.
All right. Battlerite has what it takes to become a big esport.
True.
All right. I'm glad. So is there anything else you would like to say before we end things here?
You know, I'm very excited for, you know, next week is week 4, so we don't play that week. That's like the decisions to see who we're playing. But I'm excited for week 5. If we are lucky enough to go to LAN and go to Sweden, you live in Sweden,
I do.
So I hope to see you there and all my other European friends there. And that's it. I'm excited, and I hope we're lucky enough to go to the LAN and DreamHack.
All right. Awesome. I think a lot of people are expecting you to do so, but we'll have to see. So where can people find you if they want to see you in other places after this?
Yeah, so now I've newly activated my Twitter, which is at Jeter's Legacy, just my name with an S and Legacy. And then you can also, I stream probably 4 times a week. You can find me on twitch.tv/Jeter, just my name. It's very easy to find. And so I stream 4 times a week, mostly do like the in-house leagues. So it's very fun, high-level matches usually most of the time. So you can find me there, those 2 places.
All right. Great. So with that, I say thank you very much for being here. And good luck in your coming matches.
Thank you.
All right.